Guys, we start with history today.
No, I hate history. Why history, please?
Are you of this kind? Don't worry, if you hate history, I'm gonna make it in a fun way. I love history. This is my favorite subject probably, so I'm gonna try to make it fun.
The first thing we need to understand is that history and story are different. A story is this.
But history is different. History is real life. So, for example, history is what happened during the First World War, in the Civil War of Spain. History has to do with the discovery of America. History is what is happening in the world right now. This is history, the real stuff. Okay, but what history are we going to talk about? Okay, we're going to talk about Middle Ages. Do you remember Middle Ages? Do you remember this?
I just have to learn weapons first. But I'll be brilliant at that. Ow. Yes, got him. Pages also have to serve at meals. I'm having a great time, but I do miss Mum's cooking. The Welsh are raiding. All the men have to go and defend our lands, but women, Ulsters, and pages stay behind. One day I'll be a knight. Yeah!
Huh?
Oops. Sorry.
Do you remember those videos? We used to watch them in 3rd grade. It was cool, but now you are in 5th grade. You need to make it more interesting. We need to include more information. So let's make it fun. Okay, Middle Ages. This is what we are talking about.
Tendrás alguna que otra historia que contar cuando vuelvas.
Y me prometéis que volveré.
No. Y aunque vuelvas, jamás serás el mismo.
Pero no has dicho que nos dejemos de pelis. Yes, it's true. I don't want you to think about fiction movies. I don't want you to think that this is just a story. But I want you to use your imagination so as to be there. I want you to try to think, okay, how was the sound? How was the fight? How was the battle? How did people live? What did people eat? If you use your imagination to be there, to be part of that history that I'm telling you about, then it will be fun. Then you will want to know more, okay? So try to think about that and enjoy this Flip Classroom! Today we're going to start talking about the Visigoths. In Spanish we call them los visigothos. If you talk to somebody in Spain and you ask them, what do you know about the Visigoths? The answer is gonna be, bueno, los visigothos. That's gonna be the reaction. But believe me, if you ask your grandparents, not your parents, but your grandparents, maybe some of them know even the names of the kings of the Goths, los gothos, and the Visigoths, los visigothos. Flipa, hasta los nombres se sabían. Okay, then what do I have to learn about the Visigoths? Okay, to start with, just try to imagine or to remember the Roman Empire. Do you remember this? Man, what a movie, right? Well, that was the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was huge. It was so big that it controlled the world for many different centuries. It conquered, invaded all these different countries, and it controlled the situation. They imposed the languages, their gods, their constructions, everything. But what was that problem? The problem was that it was too big. So eventually, they didn't have the money and the power to control so many territories from Rome. So what was the problem? Most people were poor. Most people could not enjoy life with many things. That's why they had so many games and fights and the circus and the Colosseum and all these fights just to entertain people, because obviously they didn't have money. So if you believe that Romans were rich, you're confused. Most Roman citizens were very poor. Only few people were rich. As a consequence of that, by the 3rd century, they had lost control and they were invaded and defeated by the Germanic tribes. That was the end of the Roman Empire. They were defeated. And you know, when something big, very big happens, we say that we change the age. For example, the discovery of America was one of the big events that changed history forever. And this is another one. The fall of the most important empire in the world at that time. So that's what happened. A new age began, and we call it the Middle Ages. Okay? All right. Something happened with the Romans in Spain. In Spain, we had the Romans like everywhere else in the nation. Remember, the Romans conquered almost the whole world. Now, when the Germanic tribes arrived, obviously they arrived from the north of Spain. The German tribes are not from Germany. Do not think German tribes, Germany. No, that's not the case. Germanic tribes were from Denmark, from Switzerland, from Finland, from all these places. Can you recall the Vikings, los vikingos? Okay, these are the people that we are talking about, okay? They arrived to the peninsula through the Pyrenees, and they decided to set in 3 different groups. Here, on the north of Spain, we could find the Suebi. Okay, this is one of the tribes that decided to stay here, north. Then, the Alani, you can see them in your book, decided to stay in the center of Spain. And finally, the Vandals decided to occupy the last part, the bottom part of the peninsula, here in Andalusia and part of Extremadura. Obviously, the Romans were not going to let them stay. So what did they do? They had a plan. They decided to call all their Germanic tribes. They called them and they asked for help. And then is when the Visigoths came to Spain. The Visigoths came again from the north of Spain to help the Romans to expel these 3 Germanic tribes away from the peninsula. They arrived and they defeated the 3 different tribes. And the Visigoths established in Spain. And what happened after that? Lo que pasa siempre. When 2 nations live together, they usually adapt their habits. For example, the Visigoths changed the language. They began to speak Latin. That was the language spoken by the Romans. Then they changed their religion. They didn't do it immediately. But in the 3rd Council of Toledo, King Recared, in español, el rey Recaredo, decided to convert to Christianity. ¿Pero qué es eso de council? ¿Qué es eso del concilio? Okay, do you remember this pyramid? We had the king, noblemen, the religious people, or the clergymen, and the peasants. The peasants were the workers. Obviously, the king, the noblemen, and the religious people, the clergymen, were the most important people, the most powerful people in that civilization, in that population. So, when these people got together, when the clergymen got together and decided to make a meeting, una reunión, to decide to make a meeting and make decisions, that was called a council. And there were many. There were like 12 or 13 councils in this time. So in the 3rd Council of Toledo, that was the most important council, the king decided to convert to Christianity. That was a big change in the Visigoth civilization. They also adopted the Roman law. They didn't bring their own law. they used the ones that the Romans had made before. And what about the Visigoths? Did they provide anything? Or they just adapted everything that the Romans had? But they also gave things like their culture or their art. For example, in the picture that you can see on page 61, you can see the horseshoe arc, okay? So this is something that differentiated the Visigoths and their constructions or their architecture. So they decided to build small churches with these characteristics, with these features, and that was the major contribution that they gave to the Roman Empire. So they adapted many things from the Romans, and that little contribution was the one that they provided. Okay? But you know what? What? Tell me more. They didn't know that something was coming from the north of Africa.
The stars are veiled. Something stirs in the east. A sleepless malice. The eye of the enemy is moving.
¿Pero qué me estás contando? ¿Quién venía? Oye, pero no decías que no te gustaba la historia. Or maybe you do. Okay, you will have to wait for the next video. See you soon. As many of you are asking me how do I make the videos, I'm just gonna post some pictures with the materials that I prepare to create the environment that you need to watch these videos with the chroma. Okay? Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.